Good evening. My husband Henry's facial expression freezes.
What?
Oh, what a coincidence. Who is this person? And I began to sit next to where my husband was sitting. I could feel how awkward my husband was, just by being in the same place as him. My name is Sarah, and I am 29 years old, and I work at a company. I have been married to my husband, Henry, for 2 years now. Henry and I both work, so we are both busy, even as a married couple. Even so, I thought that we were having a happy married life by sharing house chores together and occasionally going out to dinner or going on drive dates. But something happened that instantly changed all my thoughts about how we were having a happy married life. That day, I was supposed to go to a very fancy restaurant with a few of my university classmates whom I was still friends and keeping in touch with. It was a restaurant which I had wanted to go to for a long time, so I was pretty excited from the morning. And so, I focused a lot more on my work than usual, since I was determined to finish my work as quickly as possible to get to the restaurant on time. Then, during my lunch break, I received a text message from one of my friends, Laura, who was also attending today's dinner. Hey, isn't this your husband, Henry? When I looked at the photo that Laura sent me, to my surprise, it was of a woman whom I've never seen before and my husband walking down some street holding hands together. What? No way! Without thinking, I mumbled these words. Laura knew both my husband and I, and the reason why she knew my husband was because her company was my husband's client, and they would often have meetings together. Laura said that she had a meeting during the day at the company where my husband worked today and visited him for that. But she was apparently told by the company that he had a day off. I thought that this was weird, because from what I understood, my husband had gone to work in the morning and he was not on his day off. In other words, as of this morning, he had completely lied to me. Come to think of it, my husband was saying this to me in the morning. I'm going out to eat with a friend today too. So, that friend must be the woman in the photo Laura took. I couldn't believe that my husband was cheating with another woman behind my back. After finding out about this, all my excitement that I had from the morning was gone all at once, that I couldn't even be motivated enough to go to the fancy restaurant anymore. Then, after finishing work, I headed over to the restaurant in a depressed, unmotivated mood. As soon as I entered the restaurant, I was really surprised. I couldn't believe my eyes, but my husband was there. Plus, he was there with the woman from the photo. Seeing the two of them eating together and having fun talking with each other, something inside me snapped. I don't care about this guy anymore. But I didn't want to ruin the dinner with the girls, so I decided to stress out my husband while trying not to cause a huge scene. Oh, good evening. My husband, Henry's facial expression freezes.
What?
Oh, what a coincidence. Who is this person? I know him through work, you know. Is she your girlfriend?
Yes.
What are you saying? You're mumbling the words too much. If you're going to introduce me to her, you should do it properly. Oh, so she is your girlfriend, huh? I see how it is. Well then, please enjoy the dinner. Then saying that, I sat down right next to my husband. I could feel how awkward my husband was just by being in the same place as him. Later on, Laura, who had sent me the photo, arrived and was surprised to see Henry at the restaurant, but I held my index finger in front of my mouth and asked her to remain quiet about the situation. My husband was clearly panicking as he kept on dropping his fork several times, and the woman with him was saying this to my husband. You're really acting strange today, you know? Well, It must be quite a hell to have your own wife sit next to you while being caught about the fact that you were cheating on another woman. So, on purpose, I talked with my friends about my recent love life and family life while enjoying my husband's facial reactions next to me. Then, we finished the dinner early, so I went home first and waited for my husband to return. My husband returned home about 30 minutes after I arrived home. Apparently, he and that woman parted ways right after dinner and he came straight home. As soon as Henry saw my face, he said, "I'm so sorry." He began to apologize about his affair with that woman, Meg.
I was seduced by her. I'm so sorry. She kept on seducing me for a while, so Today too, she kept on asking me out for dinner after my work.
Even though Henry began to apologize about it, I wasn't going to forgive him at all. No way, that's wrong. You lied to me about going to work today, and you were out with Meg during the day, weren't you?
What?
I already have proof, you know. Saying that, I showed Henry the photo my friend had taken. So, you can't make any more stupid excuses, and you won't get away with this.
That's... you know...
I've had enough. Let's divorce. We'll discuss about the alimony later on.
Hey!
I then contacted Laura, who was at the dinner today, and for now, I just packed what I needed and left home and decided to stay at her house. As I was having a drink with Laura again and we were laughing and saying, I never thought we'd run into each other at that restaurant, I felt the phone vibrate. As I looked at my phone, I saw that there were notifications of many incoming calls. At first, I thought it was my husband, which is why I tried to ignore it. But the call was actually not from him, but from my high school friend named Anastasia. Anastasia and Henry and I were all from the same university, and although Anastasia and Henry were from different departments, they were both in the same club activity, and that's how they knew each other. I instantly called back Anastasia. "Hello? What's wrong? Did something happen? Huh? What the heck are you saying?" Well, I saw that you called me a lot, so You! Just because Henry was having a dinner with another woman, what right do you have to get that mad at him? What? I heard everything from Henry, you know. You were too jealous that you thought that Henry was having an affair when he didn't, and you had a huge fight where you threw a lot of stuff around the house and left. Huh? What the... Besides, it seems like you've been having that kind of attitude like that in the past too, huh? I have never in my life ever done anything like that. Hold on a minute. You misunderstood about everything. Let's meet up. I'll tell you the real truth about everything. With that, I hung up the phone. I had no idea that my husband would try to make me look that bad by telling such terrible lies to our mutual friend. My anger at my husband heated up even more, and I vowed that I would never, ever forgive him. The next day, I met Anastasia at a cafe and told her exactly what had happened. But somehow, she had a hard time believing me when I told her that Henry had actually cheated on me. So, I decided to show her the photo which Laura took of my husband holding hands with his mistress Meg. What? You must be joking. Once Anastasia saw the photo, she finally believed me that what I was telling her was all true. The story that Anastasia had been told by Henry was that he had just had dinner with a woman to discuss about work-related issues, and that I was being out of control and I had stormed out of the house. And he had also explained that I was the one who would always get angry and has anger management issues. I can't believe that he would lie to me just to defend himself. Saying that, Anastasia called Henry and put the phone on the table with the speaker on so I could hear it too. Then, a woman picked up the call. "What can I help you with? Henry's currently taking shower at the moment." "Who the hell are you?" Who the hell are you?" I'm Henry's friend. Ha! I'm Henry's girlfriend. Oh, is that so? I see how it is then. With that, Anastasia hung up the phone. Sarah, let's go. What? Let's go to the hotel where Henry said that he would be staying at. Apparently, my husband decided to stay at a hotel just to make his lie more real to Anastasia, as he had told her that the house was a mess because of me. Well, it's more like he probably went to the hotel because he wants to make sure that we won't run into each other if in case I came back home suddenly. We then reached to the front door of the hotel room where my husband was. Then, Anastasia banged the door and shouted, "Come on out, you cheating asshole!" As you can imagine, it looked like what we were doing was what a mob would do, banging on doors like that. I told Anastasia, "If we make a scene, we'll get kicked out of the hotel." Then, Anastasia whispered to me, "He can't get away with what he did, you know." But there was no response from Henry, who was in the other side of the door. Anastasia was about to start yelling again, so I stopped her by saying, "Let's just calmly wait until they come." Then, after about 20 minutes, the people who I had called for came.
Hey, Henry, what the heck are you doing? Open the door. What? Is that Father?
Yes, indeed. I called Henry's parents over. You! What are you doing?
Wait a minute. I'll open the door now.
Henry then opens the door as he said that. Then, as if the police were rushing into the scene, Henry's parents and Anastasia rushed into Henry's room. I was the last one to go into the room after everyone else had gone to the back of the room. What the hell is the meaning of this?
No, Anastasia. Sorry, well, this is... Henry, you're a horrible son for having an affair with another woman.
I don't remember raising you like that at all.
Father, Mother, I'm sorry.
When I arrived, my husband was already being blamed like that by his parents, and Henry looked really devastated. And in one corner of the bed, Meg was sitting really awkwardly. Then, all of a sudden, Anastasia began to say something which was completely unbelievable. "Oh, Henry, you told me that I was your only woman. But who the hell is this woman?" Huh? What does she mean by that? Henry's parents also gave a look which said, "Huh?" and looks at Anastasia.
So I said, I'm sorry. I was being seduced, you know. Henry, what is the meaning of this?
Do you mean to tell me that you're not just having an affair with a woman, but you are having an affair with another woman as well?
No, well, yeah. You stupid idiot!
My father-in-law, Richard's fist hits Henry on his face.
Father, Mother, I'm really sorry. But about Anastasia, I haven't told Sarah.
You haven't told me what?
What? Sarah, why are you here?
When Anastasia called you over the phone, I was also there. I mean, what the hell? Does this mean that you also betrayed me, Anastasia, when I thought you were on my side this whole time? No, that's not what this means. It seems that Anastasia was unable to control her emotions and ended up taking her anger out on Henry, revealing the truth about their affair that they had behind my back. Oh, I see how it is. So, I was just being pushed around by you assholes.
I'm really sorry about my stupid son, Sarah.
I will make sure to have our son pay for everything that he did to you. I'm truly sorry. It's not your faults, Beth and Richard, so please don't apologize. But instead, Richard, can you please do that thing where you made sure Henry know what your fist was like?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. I feel way better now. Well, I'll be requesting for alimonies from all three of you, you sick assholes. And of course, it will be done all through my lawyer.
Sarah.
Sarah, I'm so sorry. Don't ever call my name again. Disgusting. With saying that, I left Henry's hotel room. I then successfully got a divorce from my husband, and he had paid me the alimony. Anastasia and Meg also paid me the alimonies, which I had requested them. Since my ex-husband worked in the cosmetics industry, he had colleagues who were mostly females at his workplace. So, I thought it was a great idea to report this incident to my ex-husband's boss. Upon hearing what had happened, his boss got really furious, and my ex-husband's affairs had spread through the company in no time. With no one on his side, my ex-husband could no longer stay at work, and so he ended up quitting his job. He is now forced to live a poor life in a rundown apartment while working a low-paying job as a temp. Henry got what he deserves. Anyways, as for Anastasia, I shared about what had happened to her high school and university classmates. I told them that Anastasia had a hobby of sleeping around with husbands and warned them to be careful if they're with Anastasia. As a result, Anastasia lost all the trust from her high school and university classmates, and everyone had stopped contacting her, and she was no longer invited to any events like weddings or dinner parties and so on. Then, Anastasia contacted me saying, "I'm really sorry, so please forgive me, and I want you all to clear up the misunderstanding to my friends." Reading her message, I thought that she was apologizing, but until the very end, she was only thinking of herself. So I replied, "No one misunderstood, you know, and I was only telling the truth to them," and blocked her. Thus, Anastasia was completely gone from my life, and I am now able to live a very peaceful life. I then bought a new apartment with the alimonies I received from Henry, Anastasia, and Meg. Currently, I am living in a new, beautiful, and very spacious room, and I am leading a very elegant and comfortable life. I think I've had enough with my marriage life, so I'll just enjoy the life being on my own for a while. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.
A wife like you with low income who only does part-time job is not qualified to be my wife. But your sister Julia, on the other hand, is amazing and radiant, unlike you. After all, she also earns $5,000 a month. She's also really beautiful, has a great body, and is gorgeous. There is a world of difference between you and your sister, since you're a woman with no charm at all. So, because of these reasons, it's not my fault that I cheated on you, Natalie. And it's all your fault that I'm acting this way. And that is the reason why I'm marrying your sister, okay? So, go ahead and sign the divorce papers.
Fine, I don't really care. But once we're done, and there comes a time where you regret about this whole thing, it'll be too late by then. Okay?
Huh? Oh, don't you worry. I won't regret it at all.
I think that I had a normal and ordinary, but happy married life with my husband, Dylan. But then, I guess it can all fall apart so easily like this, huh? I looked at my husband as he left the room while mocking me, and thought to myself, oh, how pathetic. But I wasn't thinking about how pathetic I was. It was about how pathetic my husband was. Because my husband would be the one who would lose everything from now on. My name is Natalie. I am married to my husband, Dylan, whom I met through a friend, and we are living an ordinary life together as a couple. Although we were still young and got married to each other, we didn't have any kids, and we were able to devote ourselves to each other's hobbies, friends, and other things that we liked. I like to do crafts and making little dolls. And Dylan, on the other hand, loves going out for drinks with his friends. So, supposedly, he and his friends get together once a month to catch up with each other. One day, when Dylan came home from drinking with his friends, he looked a little dissatisfied, which was pretty unusual. While preparing water to sober him up, I called out to Dylan. "Oh, welcome home, honey." "What's wrong? Why are you frowning, honey?"
Oh, well, I heard that a friend of mine is moving into a new place. And you know that big tower apartment in the neighborhood, which finished construction recently? Well, he's moving into that apartment.
Oh, wow! That's amazing. We can't imagine what that kind of world is like, living in a place like that for us. But it must be really nice. Just like Dylan has said, the construction of the magnificent tower apartment that had been under construction in our neighborhood for several years had finally been completed. I was looking at the construction site wondering what kind of rich people would be living there, but I was surprised that anyone close to us would be living there.
Yeah, it's really hard to imagine, isn't it?
Saying this, Dylan took the glass of water I gave him and chugged it in one go.
My friend's wife is supposedly self-employed and makes a lot of money, which is why they're rich. But compared to that, I'm the only one making any money, so it is definitely not possible for us.
Oh, honey, please don't say it like that. I work at the part-time job too.
But that's no different from a part-time job that even students are doing. I'm sorry, but it doesn't count as a proper work.
As my husband let out a huge sigh, he said that and pushed the empty glass towards me.
But compared to that, Natalie, your sister Julia is amazing, isn't she? When we had dinner with Julia the other night, she was wearing really expensive branded clothes and she's such a beauty, attracting everyone around her. And plus, she also told me that her monthly income is $5,000. Isn't that about 10 times more than what you earn with your petty job?
Dylan said this with a laugh and disappeared into the bedroom as he walks dizzily since he was also drunk from the alcohol. I let out a small sigh as I watched him disappear. Dylan looks down on me on a regular basis, and I really hate it when he does that. Dylan works for a somewhat small local business, and from what I hear from Dylan, it's a very tough place to work because the pay doesn't increase that much. I understand that, but that doesn't mean that he should look down on me. And recently, Dylan has been praising about what my sister wears frequently. My elder sister, Julia, who is 3 years older than me, also lives nearby where we live. She's also the type of person who likes to go out for drinks, so I knew that she and Dylan often went out for drinks together. Julia has always been popular since we were young. Julia, who is always stylish and beautiful, is pampered and spoiled by everyone around her, and has a personality so different from mine that it is hard to believe that we are even sisters. Being with such a cheerful person like Julia, Dylan and her must get along really well. The two of them would frequently go out to pubs and bars to drink together. I never thought that Julia and I would be compared as sisters even after I got married to Dylan. And to think that my own husband was the one doing it. Today, too, I felt really uneasy about what Dylan had said while I went to sleep. The next day, Dylan, who had the day off, suddenly said something while we were eating breakfast together.
Hey, Natalie, why don't we move to that big tower apartment?
You're talking about that big tower apartment again? That's an option only for the rich people, you know that, right? As my personal opinion, I think that for us, a small house is just perfect for each other. Plus, I don't think that we'd really feel at home if it's too big like that tower apartment.
Well, that may be true, But if we think about getting old, isn't it not a bad idea to live in a place with good security and moving into a place which is just really clean and nice?
But if we move into a tower apartment now, we won't be able to live the life that we're living right now before we get old. You know that, right? But hearing this, Dylan was still mumbling and complaining, as if he was still not convinced with what I was saying about the truth. I guess he must be very jealous of his friend's success. Dylan has a habit of showing off about who he is and what he has to others, and he wants to be envied by other people for having what he has. Of course, if we could, I would love to live in a nice place like that tower apartment. But even if Dylan and I doubled our income, we would still never be able to afford such a luxurious place.
Well, I knew it, that it would be difficult, because I have a wife who doesn't earn enough.
He says this and looks down on me as he ignores the fact that he himself earns low income. So, as usual, I ignore what Dylan says and drink my soup.
All right, yeah. I guess I'll have to work a little harder too.
Dylan muttered this to himself, his expression brightening a bit as he ate his breakfast. He must have thought of something or an idea, but it's not like you can move into that tower apartment right away. I thought so to myself and did not really ask him what he was thinking, but I was later confronted with a shocking fact. It must have been about a month after we had that breakfast together. On that day, Dylan did not let me know about his drinking session with his friends, which was unusual of him, and he came back home in the morning. Hearing a taxi stop near our place, I rushed to the front door. "Hey, Dylan! When you'd get home late, you would always call me in advance, so why didn't you? What's wrong? You had me really worried." When I opened the front door as I said that, I saw not only Dylan, but Julia with him. Both Dylan and Julia looked really drunk, and the sun was coming up, as it was really early in the morning. They must have been drinking together, judging from the way the smell of alcohol drifted through the air just by facing both Julia and Dylan. But no matter how much they both liked to drink, this was the first time they had ever continued drinking until morning. While I was being stunned at the situation, both Dylan and Julia pushed me out of the way and stormed into the house.
"Natalie, I need to talk to you. Come over here."
I did as I was told, and I sat around the table as the two sat down before me. Both Dylan and Julia was too drunk that I thought it'd be just a huge hassle to go against them.
Okay, I'm going to just be straightforward with you. I am divorcing you.
What? Is that a joke? I asked with a laugh, but then Julia opened her mouth as she laughed at me contemptuously. "Oh, I'm sorry, Natalie. Actually, it's something I've been thinking about for a while now. It seems like you and Dylan seem to live in completely different worlds. Dylan is much more suited to a woman like me." Julia said this as she hugged Dylan's arm right in front of me. To this, Dylan looked really happy. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing from early in the morning. I let out a huge sigh as I was feeling ridiculous about what was happening in front of my eyes. "What is the meaning of all this, Dylan?"
What do you mean by what is the meaning of this? All you've been doing is you've only been making pocket money and acting all high and mighty while calling that your job is proper work when it isn't, since it's only just a part-time job, and I just couldn't take it anymore.
Oh, I heard everything from Dylan, Natalie. When Dylan said he wanted to live in the tower apartment, you told him that it was impossible. You can't trust what your husband is worthy for, which shows that you're not a fit wife for him. The two of them were laughing happily as they said such things to me in a really drunk manner.
Unlike you, your sister had respected what I suggested. She said to me that I'll be a man who looks good and suits very well in that tower apartment. Like that, She agrees with what I say, and she is a nice woman compared to you.
I was just saying what the reality is, you know? Both you and Julia are just too drunk to make any good decisions. Just praising or complimenting each other that easily won't make any difference, will it? You have always had a poor mindset, and you were always so frugal, so it's no wonder that people around you will be poor too. Do you even know how much Dylan really earns? Julia says that as she glares at me. He earns about $7,000 per month. I couldn't help but laugh at what she said. How could I not know about Dylan's salary? He doesn't even make that much kind of money at all. When I looked at Dylan, he awkwardly turned his eyes away from me. I guess he must have lied to Julia as they were getting excited while they were talking to each other and getting drunk together. So, his usual habit of trying to look good to other people had kicked in, huh?
Anyway, Julia earns a lot more money than you, Natalie, and she also agrees with me and stands up for me. It's no doubt that she's a much better wife than you, Natalie, so that's why I'm divorcing you.
Dylan then brought the divorce papers from his room. I don't know how long he had been preparing the divorce papers, but the only thing which was blank was where I had to sign. Hey, why don't you reconsider this whole thing one more time? It's not something you can decide on the spur of the moment just because you're drunk. And Dylan, you're not being logical about any of this. And Julia, do you really think that father and mother would forgive you for taking away my husband? I couldn't care less about what father and mother would think about this. Because a wonderful man like Dylan wants me for who I am. So I don't need anything else. Hearing this, Dylan was also nodding right next to me. If anyone heard what they were both saying, it was clearly obvious that Dylan and Julia was both only after the money. Knowing that Dylan and Julia was in this situation, there would be no point in trying to persuade them any longer, no matter how much I tried. Besides, there was no way I would be able to persuade them when I've seen how they were like to each other. Dylan had always looked down on me, whether it was about earning money or just anything else in general, and having him requesting for divorce, I was actually beginning to feel a little better about the situation. Fine, we'll get a divorce, but it's too late to regret anything, okay? I signed the divorce papers as I said that, and the two of them rushed me to submit the papers to the city office immediately. They called a taxi for me and made me submit the divorce papers right away. After witnessing that I had submitted the divorce papers, both Julia and Dylan then officially got married a few weeks after that. The two were so well prepared for this. I also left the house, leaving Dylan and Julia, who seemed to be enjoying themselves in front of my eyes. And right after I left, they went to buy a room in that tower apartment on the same day. The total amount to buy a room in that tower apartment was about $2 million. When I first heard the amount, my mind went blank, and I really couldn't process that amount in my head.
Julia and I would move out next week, so I'll give this house back to you. Looking back on it now, it's such a small, shabby house.
Dylan described mercilessly about the house like that, even though it was where we had lived together since we got married. Dylan wanted to make himself look superior by looking down on someone else, no matter what. I see. Well then, I wish you both all the best. And that was the last time Dylan and I had talked with each other. On the day Dylan had moved out, he left without even saying goodbye. And since then, few days passed. The house was a little bigger now that they both left, but it was just the right size for living alone. I was finally free, being able to spread my wings comfortably for the first time in a long time. Then suddenly, the doorbell rang loudly. When I saw through the peephole, I saw Dylan right outside, and he looked really pale.
What the hell is wrong with that woman? Everything she told is a lie.
Dylan began to sit down by the front porch. Oh, so you must have finally realized by now who Julia really is, huh? While Dylan was sitting on the front porch, I explained who Julia really was through the door. Well, to begin with, Julia doesn't really even earn $5,000 per month. Actually, she doesn't even work full-time, and like me, she made her living by having a part-time job. Nevertheless, the reason she was able to wear such expensive clothes or have expensive branded goods was because Julia's boyfriends were paying everything for her. I knew that there were several men who'd do that for Julia, but I knew that once Julia got married, all of them would stop doing that. And plus, Julia knew how to spend a lot on things and could not be frugal and save any money at all. In terms of the money she received by her past boyfriends, she probably had a monthly income of about $10,000, but by the end of the month, since she would spend everything, she would have zero savings, which is why she would invite Dylan out for drinks for him to pay for her, so that she wouldn't have to pay for her own food expenses. And above all, she was in a lot of debt. She was also devoted to gambling, and from that, she was in debt. But she did lots of gambling so that she could just spend lavishly on shopping. The amount in which she had to repay for her debt was about $5,000 per month. In other words, Julia's debt was a lot more than the rent of the house where Dylan and I had lived. In the end, Dylan abandoned me and chose to be with Julia, who was in a lot of debt and had a habit of spending the money away. So, of course, there was no way that Dylan could afford to live such a rich life which he dreamed and planned for himself when he got together with Julia.
That woman, she's lied about everything to me. She's just scamming me, isn't she?
Well, you were also lying and pretending that you were earning $7,000 a month to Julia, weren't you? So you shouldn't be even saying that. You both did that to yourselves. The fact that the two of them were both just trying to make each other look good by lying about the truth was completely ridiculous. Dylan was talking as if he was the victim, but he had no right to talk that way since what he did was the same thing.
Well, why didn't you tell me about this in the first place? You were my wife.
Well, I'm not nice enough to give you any advice after you looked down on me like that. Because like what you and Julia said to me, it seems like I'm not really qualified to be a wife, right? After Dylan had heard what I had to say, he understood everything and began crying miserably at the door.
I'm so sorry, Natalie. I was completely wrong. I beg you, please just start over with me. If I continue to stay with that woman, I'll be ruined too.
It's too late to regret it now. I will never, ever get back together with you. So, can you please leave now? If you make any scene here, all the neighbors will see what you're doing and it'll be a rumor in no time, okay? Since you want other people to know that you're a good person, that's the last thing you want to be seen as, right? Dylan seemed to have been at the door for a while, but before I knew it, he left the house. He hates more than anything to be seen crying by the people he knows or he has met before. I felt just a little sorry for him, thinking that he would be a lot more miserable in the future. It seems like Dylan stayed at the tower apartment for only a few days and immediately sold the room. But since a large amount of debt remains for the tower apartment, he will have to pay it off bit by bit from now on. Julia and Dylan currently rented a new room and is living in it, but it is a small apartment for two people to live in, and they seem to be constantly fighting every day. Everything is coming all to Dylan with the fact that his divorce from me was due to his affair, and that he also had to pay alimony to me because of what he has done. The remaining debt for the tower apartment, and the rent, and the alimony. Naturally, it is not something Dylan, who really has a low monthly salary, can afford to pay, which is why he also began doing part-time jobs and other different jobs on the side so that he could pay off what he had to pay. As for Julia, who is living with Dylan, she must have seen how frugal they both have to be, but it seems like she bought tons of clothes at a local clothing store the other day. It seems that her spending habits are still very much alive and probably very difficult to get rid of it. By seeing Julia being like that, it is hard to imagine when she will be able to pay off her debts. It looks like Julia tried to run away to our parents' house a few times, but Father disowned her because I had already reported this outrageous incident to him. Even I can no longer see Julia as my own elder sister. Compared to Dylan and Julia, my life has become a little easier, all thanks to Dylan's alimony. Plus, the manager of my part-time job asked me if I wanted to become a full-time employee. My manager said that they had just lost one of their full-time employees and wondered if I would be interested. I agreed to the offer right away. Thanks to this, I was able to earn enough money to live a comfortable life, even though I lived alone. So like this, in the end, I probably now earn more money than Dylan. Well, I guess I'll just treat myself to a nice little dinner tonight. Thinking that, I would return to my favorite house while looking at the big tower apartment which is standing in the distance. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.